this is Dave Levinson. I'm the president and CEO of Limra Loma and Pello Global. I apologize about some technical difficulties with my camera, so hopefully the audio is coming through okay. But I just wanted to welcome all of you to the 9th Annual Trustworthy Selling Preview Day. We're very excited about the next couple days. Historically, we've done this particular day in Chicago, and Joey tells me we tend to get about 25 executives come to the Hoopus Performance Network group, their offices in Chicago. And looks like because we're doing this virtually, obviously because of the pandemic, we've got almost 200 people on the call today, which is very, very exciting for us. We think this Trustworthy Selling program is something that is very powerful for our distribution members. We've got the art of the Hoopus Performance Network and the science of Limra with our industrial psychologists. And that combination has been really powerful over the last 9 years. Over 70 companies have signed up for this. We've got over 15,000 graduates. And importantly, we've gotten a productivity lift because of this training in excess of 20%. So you're going to hear some testimonials. I hope you're going to find the next couple of days compelling. It's going to give you an opportunity to get a greater lens into the platform, to ask a lot of questions, and hopefully get a lot of answers from the experts, both at Hoopus Performance Network as well as on the Limra team. So I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate you being with us today. And again, I know people are coming from all over the world. So in some cases it's noon, and in some cases it's probably in the middle of the morning. And I just want to let you know how much we appreciate you joining us. So thank you. And with that, Joey, I think I'm going to turn it over to you.
Dave, thanks so much. We greatly appreciate you kicking off our 2020 Trustworthy Selling Virtual Preview Day. Dave said we do have about 30 people live in Chicago. We have close to 200 all over the world. So welcome, and thank you so much for joining us. No mask required since it's virtual, and we're excited about the next few days. And what I would like to do is just kind of set the stage on the schedule. Because it's virtual, we've spread this out over a couple of weeks with some general sessions as well as some breakout sessions. So today, August the 4th, from 11 to 11:45 Central, we're going to provide you with an overview of trustworthy selling. We're going to share with you some trends that are going on in the industry and some of the gaps that we find Trustworthy is filling. We're going to walk you through a high-level overview of the curriculum and the topics that are covered in the program. And then we're going to share with you the learning design. We have rolled out Trustworthy Selling 2.0 after 2 years of a lot of work on the HPN Limra side and based on feedback of these 15,000 graduates. And so we're going to walk you through the new learning design as well as the facilitator and coaching certification and some of the impact that we're seeing in over 24 companies that we've studied this with. Then we're going to take a break. And we're going to feature our executive panel from noon until 12:45 Central. These are clients of Trustworthy Selling, different distribution models, talking about how they have implemented and executed Trustworthy Selling, who they got certified as facilitators and coaches, what their delivery models look like, what they've learned, some tweaks they've made along the way. That's always a big highlight of the Trustworthy Selling Preview Day, so we're excited about that. So that's today's general session. Then on Thursday, August 6th, what we're going to have is a deep dive into the Trustworthy Selling curriculum and all 10 modules. Now, we have to do that in a condensed version and obviously virtually, but most of you have converted to virtual classroom delivery. So you'll see firsthand on Thursday some of the adult learning activities we run virtually, breakout sessions, polling questions. And so the first part of that is going to go through modules 1 through 5, and the second part is going to go through modules 6 through 10. If you haven't completed your pre-work, in particular, the personality styles profile and downloading the participant guide, be sure to do that before Thursday because that's where that'll really come into play. There's also some pre-work videos you'll need to watch, micro-learning videos. They're short and sweet. If you get a chance to do that, it's going to make that experience much more rich on Thursday. And so if you did not get your pre-work, if it ended up in spam, you can email us at info@tsprogram.com. That's info@tsprogram.com. Hey, Jackie, maybe you can mute our participants because I have some ambient noise coming through here. Thank you. So if you didn't get your free work, info@tsprogram.com. Definitely complete the PSP. Definitely download the participant guide for that session on Thursday. Next week, back up. Next week we have breakout session on August the 11th. 2 breakouts from 11 to 11:45 Central. We're going to share with you a deep dive on our facilitator and coaching certification program, all the steps in that, help you as you consider who would get certified as facilitators and coaches, but also different delivery models and walk you through some of the various delivery models. The beauty is we provide you with a track to run on in Trustworthy Selling, but enough flexibility so that you can adapt it to your culture, your organization, geographic challenges, things like that. And the second breakout session on the 11th, we're going to do a deep dive into the results that we've had in over 24 going to be on Thursday, August the 13th. Happens to be my birthday. This is for all the Spanish-speaking executives that are on the call. I know most of you in Latin America will have responsibility for Spanish-speaking countries. Is participating in the English version of this. But what we're going to have on the 13th is a session specifically in Spanish where we can answer any questions that you might have about the Spanish version, discuss the translation efforts that we have, and then do some follow-up on some consulting one-on-one, either with a LIMR or HPN consultant for Spanish speaking. What's that? Jackie, can you guys hear me?
Yep, yes, we can hear you now, Joey. So let me just jump in, folks. Hi, everyone. This is Sarah Sears from LIMR. We are getting a little bit of background noise. When we tried to mute everybody, I think it took out Joey as well. So if you could just do me a favor, I'm going to open up a little box just for a moment here. Sorry, Joey, I know you're on a roll. And we're going to just quickly ask a favor of everyone, and I don't know where the notepad is. Okay, so if you could just hit *6 on your phone, that will mute you. And as you can see, we have a very robust chat area going on the left. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to put a question in there. But we do ask that you just mute so that we can hear Joey nice and clearly. So I hear a lot of noise with phones, so I think that means a lot of muting has happened. That's fantastic. Joey, I'm sorry for that. Go ahead and continue.
Hey, Sarah, where should I back up to? Any suggestion there?
Well, we heard about your birthday. Why don't you keep going down that?
Yeah. All right, perfect. Thanks, everyone. And, hey, with technology, the beauty is we have a couple hundred people on here. The downside is you have to bear with us because there's a couple hundred people on here, but hopefully this will be as good as we can get it. And again, we're going to make this interaction, so I think we have a lot of fun. The only thing I'd back up and say is on August 13th, my birthday, we have a session specifically for those of you all that have responsibility for Spanish-speaking countries or in Latin America. We have a number of executives from Latin America that are on the English version of Trustworthy Selling preview day this week and next week. We greatly appreciate that. But we're going to do a specific session in Spanish. So if you haven't registered for that, be sure to register. The focus of that session will be answering any questions you have, talking about our translation efforts there. And then as a follow-up, HPN and LIMRA will have a consultant, Spanish-speaking consultant that can follow up with your team to address any specific issues you've got. So that's our schedule over this week and next week. We're going to get started, and I'm going to kick it off with talking about some trends that we see going on in the industry that we are finding that Trustworthy Selling is filling in the gap around. And one of the first things I'd start off with...
Give it a moment. The slide will be up in a second. Here we go.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah, one of the first things I would start off with is one thing we find in the industry is that a lot more things are on the plate of us having to train new and experienced advisors. We have compliance that's heavy on the scene that we're having to get up and train on. We have technology. I mean, 20 years ago when I came in the business, we weren't talking about CRMs and LMS. Today we are. A lot of product training has to be done. And so what we find is the industry has put on the back burner the art of selling. And we hear this from distribution leaders all of the time because it's tough when you have compliance and technology and these things sort of take precedence many times, but we lose the art of connecting, whether that's with experienced advisors or with new advisors. And so we have a poll question for you today that we're going to bring up. Some of you answered that at the beginning. What is the top concern your organization has onboarding new advisors to the career? In this particular question, we're going to focus on new advisors. So take a minute and answer this. What's the top concern your organization has of onboarding new advisors to the career? And polling is still coming in here. Thank you all for replying to this. And our options here are learning our technology system, understanding compliance regulation, being able to connect with enough people to be productive, and fitting into our company culture, or no vote. And overwhelmingly, we have here 77.4% says being able to connect with enough people to be productive. And so that's what we tend to hear from heads of distribution and managers and heads of learning and development. You know, the tech systems are important. The compliance is super important, but losing the art of connecting, what we call the soft skills, is taking a back seat. And so we have to be very careful of that, especially in an environment today where people are having to interact over technology. Being able to make connections with people and demonstrating empathy and knowing the language of trust has become more important than ever before. The other thing that we're finding out in the marketplace is there is a trust gap between advisors and consumers. And as a matter of fact, the $1 Million Roundtable did a study just a few years ago, and they asked consumers across all generations, so from the silent generation to millennials, has it become more difficult to trust advisors today versus 5 years ago? And that moves into our second polling question up front. What percentage of consumers do you think say it's more difficult to trust advisors today versus 5 years ago? Is it 40%, 57%, 72%, or 85%? I'll just give you 10 seconds or so to place your vote on here. Again, MDRT asked consumers, has it become more difficult to trust advisors today versus 5 years ago? And this was across all generations, so not just the silent generation or baby boomers or Gen X, millennials, it was all of them. And as we look at our polling, let's say 48% so far are saying that it's 72%, 30% of you are saying it's 57, 18 says it's 40, and then 7.2% say that it's 85. Well, and most of y'all said 72, and that's a great guess. But the thing I would tell you is it's even more dire than that. 85% of consumers say it's more difficult to trust a financial advisor today versus 5 years ago. Interestingly enough, the roundtable asked producers or advisors that same question, and only 59% of producers thought that to be the case. So there's even this blind spot out there amongst producers of this trust gap that exists amongst consumers. And there's lots of reasons for that over the past decade, the bank bailouts and the Great Recession and everything that's going on out there in the marketplace, best interest, consumers hear these phrases and it creates this trust gap. Quick side note, we with HPN and Limmer went to the consumer because this is kind of an esoteric phrase. Trust can mean different things to different people. And we identified 4 key facets of trust that was most important to the consumer: benevolence, integrity, dependability, and competency. And competency was least important. And we do a deep dive on the language of trust in the program to teach advisors language to bridge this trust gap. And we'll get more into that on Thursday. That's why I encourage you to watch that pre-work videos, because we actually have a video specifically around the language of trust. The other thing that we're seeing out in the marketplace is there's a big demand for our products and services. Now, this particular study is focused specifically on life insurance, but Trustworthy Selling is product agnostic. It focuses really on risk planning and wealth accumulation planning. But what we find from Limmer research is 48 million households in a given year state that they need more life insurance. 29 million state that not only do they need more life insurance, but they're going to go do something about it in the next 12 months. So it's not a dormant need, it's a visible need. But we know from the research only 12% actually pull the trigger and do anything about it. So the question becomes, what creates this procrastination and this inertia in the marketplace? Now, we focus on this in depth in Trustworthy Selling. We begin with the end in mind by teaching advisors what's creating this procrastination. But for today's purposes, there's 2 primary things I'd share with you. Is consumers are afraid and they're confused. 43% of households report being afraid of making a mistake in their financial decision making. And as many of you know, when people are afraid of making a mistake, what do they end up doing? They end up doing nothing. They sort of hunker down and wait it out. The other thing we find interesting is that 71% of consumers, or 5 out of 7, say they're more confused after they meet with a financial advisor than before they met with a financial advisor, if you can imagine that. And so we show up with our fancy charts and our jargon, and when we leave, we have completely confused prospects and clients. And so anything we can teach advisors to do in the sales process that reduces fear, reduces confusion, and bridges this trust gap is going to differentiate them in the marketplace, and it's going to help them move people forward in the sales process. Now, I know we have a number of you on the call today from our multi-line companies, and we appreciate that. We do have a specific edition of Trustworthy Selling for the multi-line space, very specific. A lot of success we've had with this program, but there's a couple things going on in multi-line. 52% of multi-line clients say their company doesn't sell life insurance. These are clients, when 95% actually do. So there's even a major lack of awareness that your multi-line agents even offer life insurance and financial services. This one's an interesting one. Only 8% of multi-line clients own life insurance or financial products with their P&C provider. So there is a huge opportunity to teach multi-line agents to have the confidence, but the language and skill to pivot to that life and financial services conversation. And if you come to our Business Impact Results breakout session next week, we're going to go specifically into some of the results, some staggering results we've had in the multi-line space. A couple of things we see out in the marketplace. 63% of consumers who went through the life insurance and the financial services sales process felt tense or anxious about going through that process. But those that went on to purchase said that 87% of them said that the advisor reduced that tension and anxiety. And as we peel back the layers and say, okay, what were the behaviors that the advisor exemplified that caused the person to move forward? You can see on the screen, gave me complete attention, very knowledgeable, listen without interrupting, had my best interest in mind. There goes benevolence right there. Built rapport and spent time determining my specific needs. These are the exact same behaviors that we teach and behavior change that we teach as part of Trustworthy Selling to reduce any of that tension or anxiety in the sales process. The other thing we see going on in the industry is behavioral economics is at the forefront of everyone's mind. They're talking about it all over the industry. Now, the fact of the matter is behavioral economics has been around since the late 1970s, but it had never been studied specifically in the insurance and financial services space. And so Limmer and HPN identified 7 behavioral economics techniques that, when applied to the sales process, increase the likelihood of a prospect moving forward by 29%. And what you're looking at on the screen here is we conducted focus groups and throughout the country, and we brought in 2 advisors. One used the traditional approach to the sales presentation, and the other advisor incorporated these behavioral economics techniques. And consumers observed these 2 presentations, and they were given dials. You might have seen these on the political shows these days. If not, you're about to see it over the next coming months. But if I like what I hear, I dial up, and if I don't like what I hear, I dial down. And so the dark blue line at the top is the advisor that incorporated these behavioral economics techniques, and the light blue was the old school method. And so what you say and how you say it in the sales process makes a huge difference in connecting with people and getting them to make decisions, many times decisions that are irrational, because economics is rational, but behavioral economics can be very irrational. And so equipping advisors with these behavioral economics techniques have been proven to increase the likelihood of someone moving forward and taking action by 29%, and we teach this throughout the Trustworthy Selling program. And the last thing I would come to is what we're seeing in the marketplace. Everyone hears about best interest, right, and fiduciary responsibility, which are very, very important to the consumer. And we've always talked about selling as serving. Matter of fact, my buddy George Ludwig, who's part of the faculty for Trustworthy Selling, has taught us that sales comes from the Scandinavian root word salesvig, which translated means to serve. And so really, if you're selling, and you have a spirit of serving, you are doing things in the best interest of prospects and clients. And so best interest means taking prospects and clients through a process that's grounded deep in a deep understanding of the prospect's unique situation, educates them on how financial services, products, and solutions are designed to help them meet their goals, uses simple language to explain complex products to ensure the prospect agrees the solution fits their best interest, and then just being transparent in building trust and motivating the prospect to take action. And I'm here to tell you, trustworthy selling has always been about what's in the best interest of prospects and clients. Even when the best interest in fiduciary stuff was going on a few years ago, we had a best interest attorney go through and add certain nuances and things to the language of the program to be aligned with that. Yeah, I just would throw this out there in the chat bar. As I say all this, what's your reaction to this? Selling is serving, the concept of sales big from the Scandinavian root word meaning to serve, and the fact that trustworthy is aligned with best interest out there. Any reactions to this? Couldn't agree more. Thank you. So true. Excellent. And appreciate you all participating actively in here. I'll keep us moving. So with the program, and I'll get this started and turn it over to Sarah, a couple things. Dave mentioned this. This is the only sales effectiveness program built by the industry for the industry. There's a number of sales effectiveness programs that grew up out of the business-to-business space. And so when you try to bring it over here into a personal selling environment, it tends to feel very clunky is what we hear. But in this situation, we've combined the art and science. So the art is my company, HPN's, field-tested language and techniques of what the best of the best are doing out there in the field, combined with the science, which is Limmer's validated research into the consumer mindset, behavioral economics, the market opportunity. We think this is a very unique combination. And so this is very specific to the industry with language, case studies, role-play examples, everything that's very specific to the insurance and financial services space, and that's a big differentiator. Same for the multi-line edition. It's very specific to the multi-line space. It's not just an insurance and financial services wrapper put around it. Now, we have 3 different editions of the program. We have a quick start edition. Now, this is designed for brand new recruits to get them off to a fast start in the business. It would replace some of your soft skill training, but it's designed to enhance the proprietary training that you all have built around your products and processes and things along those lines. Now, we also have a professional edition. This is designed for experienced producers to help them overcome that retention cliff that we see from that 2 to 5 year where we have retention that falls off, but also many times in that 5 to 15 year range, a lot of companies talk about vertical growth and just re-engaging and re-energizing your experienced producers. And we have lots of great productivity results for the professional. But we also have a multi-line specific edition, again, created for PNC agents to improve their ability to pivot from the personal lines conversation to the life and retirement conversation. And so those are the editions. And we have a poll question just quickly, and check off all that would apply. Which of these editions would apply in your company situation? Would Quick Start apply, professional, multi-line? Some of you all would say Quick Start multi-line. And so you would check off a couple of those. And we also have this translated into French Canadian. I know we have a lot of our Canadian friends that are joining us today. We've had huge success in the Canadian market. And the French version now in the 2.0 edition, we're getting great feedback on it, and we're excited about that. So our results here, Quick Start, about 67, professional, 65. I mean, those are really kind of neck and neck. So we have a balanced audience here that has needs at Quick Start and professional, 32.6% of the multi-line. And I love seeing the 19.5 on French Canadian. And Sarah's going to walk through later on specifically about some of the language editions we have. Again, thanks for your participation there, everyone. Now, I'm going to walk you through the House of Sales or House of Learning. This is a broad overview of the modules of Trustworthy Selling. Again, on Thursday, 2 days from now, we're going to do a deep dive into each of these modules so you can experience them. But for today, I'm going to give you a broad level overview. There are 2 developmental assessments as pre-work, the personality styles profile that you see at the bottom there, as well as Sales Booster. And I'm going to attempt to do my arrow here, and Sales Booster. So PSP identifies your unique selling style. Sales Booster, we have mapped the mindset of 1,500 top producers on 6 dimensions. This is a big part of our seller psychology content. And so advisors can compare their mindset to that of top producers. This helps us or you to personalize the experience. Anytime you assign combined development or assessment with ongoing learning and development, you're able to personalize the experience with the participants going through. So that's pre-work. Now, the first 3 modules of the program create the foundation, or what we like to call the psychological readiness to learn. The first one introduces them to the curriculum and the faculty and the mindset of trust and things. The second module is understanding today's consumer. We want advisors to know right out of the gate what's causing fear and procrastination, the fact there is a trust gap, so that they can put themselves on the same side of the table mentally as prospects and clients. And then the third module is not only understanding my selling style from the PSP assessment, but how do I adapt my selling style so that if I'm a dynamic, I'm meeting with an analytic, there's certain things I can say or do differently in the sales process to make a better connection. We call that communication flexibility. And so those first 3 modules create the foundation. Then that leads us to the skill building modules. And these are all the sales process, business development strategies, psychology and language around business development, why advisors typically fail in that area, but techniques and tools and resources to identify specific names and categories of the type of markets you want to get into. We know that 71% of consumers determine they're going to trust someone after the first meeting, 29% in the first 10 minutes. So we devoted an entire module on engagement strategies, active listening strategies, for the quick start version, telephoning, language and techniques, face-to-face engagement, even digital engagement that we've added to 2.0 there. Collaborative discovery is our quote-unquote fact-finding module. We always say that fact-finding is what you do to someone. Collaborative discovery is what you do with someone. This is the cornerstone of the program. We teach the art and science of questioning. We even have a questioning model called RPM, reality, pain gain, and most importantly, magnification question. Leads us to gaining commitment. That's our quote-unquote closing module, where a number of the behavioral economics techniques come in. We teach story selling, presentation best practices, again, techniques used by top advisors. And then for the professional edition, we have deepening the client relationship. The profit is in the long-term relationship, not the one-time sale. So once someone becomes a client, how do I segment my client so I treat everyone fairly but not equally, and to ensure I'm spending time with my best relationships to identify those cross-selling opportunities. So those 10 modules are the skill-building modules. Then we have seller psychology. This is the peak performance psychology of top producers. Also identifying any limiting beliefs that might be holding you back and how you can recondition or reprogram some of those limiting beliefs. And finally, this leads to a capstone, which is an interactive role-play and case study where you're applying the language and skills that you've learned throughout the program, in particular in collaborative discovery and gaining commitment. As a matter of fact, you'll learn later, there is a 50-question e-learning exam that's part of Capstone. When you complete that, it counts as an elective towards the American College's FSCP designation, and we'll talk more about that later on. So one final point I'll make, this is the Trustworthy selling model. Trustworthy selling is not designed to replace any sales process that your company currently has. This is a sales effectiveness program. So it's designed to work in conjunction with your company's existing sales process. And for a number of you out there, that whether you're using LEAP or Wealth Building Cornerstones or Living Balance Sheet, we find in the market, our clients find it's a perfect complement and sometimes the missing ingredient or element to that. And so as we consult with you all after the fact, we can talk more about how all of that works together. But this model is an example of a wall chart that's up in the classroom so facilitators can anchor back to some of the key concepts as they progress through the different modules in the program. And then for the multi-line, basically what we're teaching is to set the stage to make sure that multi-line prospects and clients are aware that the multi-line agent does sell financial services and they're a total risk manager, and helping them confidently make the pivot to the life and financial services conversation and then implement the skill to effectively engage in that cross-selling. Now, this is a turnkey learning system. It's designed for scalability. It's designed to take a lot of the heavy lifting off of the facilitator's shoulders. We spent 2.5 years between Limber and HBN revamping 1.0 to create 2.0 based on feedback from the 15,000 graduates that have gone through the program, as well as hundreds of facilitators and coaches. And so I'm going to introduce Sarah Sears, who is the Assistant Vice President of Product Innovation and Development at LIMRA's Talent Solutions Group. Sarah's been with LIMRA for 13 years. She's responsible for the strategic guidance and of the development and marketing of the Talent Solutions products. And in her role, and I think this is super important, she translates research into specific skills, behaviors, and tools that improve advisor effectiveness and manager effectiveness down at the field level. So Sarah's going to walk you through the learning design, the facilitator and coaching certification, and then share with you some of the results that we've experienced with the program. So Sarah, take it away.
All right, thank you so much, Joey. So first off, I'd like to talk a little bit more about this turnkey system that Joey was just describing. So when it comes to trustworthy selling, it was really built as a totally immersive, comprehensive learning system. So what we've done is we've packaged together literally everything you need to deliver a first-class and effective training program. And here's the great news. There's no content to tailor or modify. It's really, truly turnkey system. So the system really centers around a fully scripted facilitator guide. You see some screenshots of that on the screen there. And it tells facilitators exactly how to tee up content, to debrief content, how to lead group discussions, and run adult learning activities. Now, the really great part is that all of the subject matter expertise, a lot of that context that Joey was setting up for us at the early of this session, all of that's delivered through online video. So facilitators don't have to become the subject matter experts, which lifts a huge amount of burden off of their shoulders. And the good news for people at the organizational level is that this really creates consistency in the message being delivered. So in that core content, we're having the same message happening throughout the different facilitators, which allows for you to have scalability as it really pertains to going company-wide with it. So now when we think about the learning path, what you see on the screen here is a sample of what we are dealing with there. And I'm sorry, my computer is freezing on me for a second here. So what we really designed the learning design to be is adaptive and forward thinking, so really catalyzing change. Every module, you can expect the same kind of experience where we're going to include some multiple, actually, adult learning components. We're going to drive variety, engagement, and really a thorough learning experience for the modern learner through these things. And really this is how it works, what you see on the screen here. Every module contains multiple segments. Every segment contains a debrief discussion and one or more adult learning activities that's going to help folks practice and to reinforce those skills. In general, it'll all follow really this same kind of learning path that you see on the screen here with just a bit of variation so facilitators can get comfortable with that flow. And in addition, if you look at that bottom piece with the supporting resources, every module contains value-added content. So that would be things like infographics and language frameworks and some cues with that, and even some e-learning modules that'll really help drive home the concepts and skills. Now, this entire package was designed to support you and your facilitators in delivering a really professional sales training program in your organization. So the thing that we're really excited about, especially with the launch of Trustworthy Selling 2.0 in the last year or so, is that we now have a video library that's made of 3 different kinds of videos. And this, again, is the place where all that subject matter expertise is housed. So these 3 different videos take 3 different forms. So we have the why, the what, and how. And the first is the context video, and these are animated videos. These are the videos that are setting the stage, and they're providing the reason for behavior change. This is where we'll incorporate all of the great LIMRA research and statistics. That's that science part that Joey was mentioning with the art and science. And this is going to help set the kind of the why behind the what, why we need to magnify the issue, why it's so important, and really why we need to have behavior change happen. Now, they're animated to have a little bit of viewer variety, but they're also animated so that we can keep the insights fresh. So as you can imagine, with an animated video, we can swap in and out statistics as they become more relevant or not. Now, those videos flow into application videos. And this is where you're going to see skill demonstrations happen and where techniques and best practices related to the context video all come to life. So in other words, given what we know about X, Y, and Z, which we learned in that context video, here's what you should do about it. And that's what happens in that application video. Now, I would have to say, I think Joey and I share this. The language demonstration videos are really probably our favorite piece. This is where it all comes to life. So we have a great diverse team of live actors that bring these language and techniques to life, and you can see them in action. Now, the website is the central hub for the Trustworthy Selling Program. This is where all the great content lives, and this is where we can find the student and the facilitator and the coach's resources for the program. It's very well organized by module and segment, and it even can be assigned by facilitators and coaches. So if they find that they want to make sure people are fully prepared for a session or a coaching session and make sure someone kind of hones a skill, that can all be assigned from the system. Now, the great news about the online platform is it's designed for mobile responsive design, so the content can be accessible anywhere or anyhow. So if there's any need for a just-in-time refresher in the field, then it can certainly do that. Now, the participant guides is probably beyond the language demonstration videos. This is probably one of my favorite pieces. And for those of you who have downloaded the preview day guide, you get kind of a good feel for this. But what we've done is we've made the participant guides fully digital. And what we mean by fully digital is we've really capitalized on the opportunities that digital guides afford us. So they're really beautiful, they're engaging, and hopefully through this preview day experience, you'll get a feel for that. So when I say that they're fully digital and they're engaging, they're interactive. So in each page of the guides, you'll see hyperlinks and QR codes that link folks to videos, to infographics, to language frameworks. All of those supporting pieces now are accessible right through that digital guide. So for instance, a participant could click on the title of a video and they're brought right to that program website where they can access the video on that page. And this question comes up a lot. They would have to just sign into the program website the first time, and then it'll remember them and they can access all this content very streamlined and straightforward. So we really see the digital guides as having twofold advantages. So for the participants, they'll have always on access to their contents and their notes and really direct links to all the most relevant content, so they can come back and forth to all of that. And now for you at the organizational level, so for companies, it's really going to reduce the hassle of shipping and printing binders. But really the best part is you're providing a contemporary learning approach, which we know is so valued by today's modern learners. Now what you see on the screen here is some of our infographics in the program. So we talk again about that art and science. The science piece is so important to get all that data and that context and the why behind the what for the program. So we've actually embedded about 50 infographics that support the Trustworthy Selling Program. And again, these can be linked through infographics in the participant guide, through those hyperlinks or QR codes as well. And they're great reference pieces for participants to recall those key concepts down the road. Now, there are two types of infographics. On the left, you see the research nuggets, and on the right, you see the key concepts. And the research nugget ones, those are really supporting that research context. But the key concepts we've added to the program because it's really helped the more visual learners. I know I'm one of these folks, so for me, it's a lot easier for me to remember things, especially when there's lots of frameworks and things, if I have a visual cue to help me with that. So you can see here we have the 6 emotional drivers. There's a unicorn for significance. I can remember, okay, yeah, unicorn significance, and that helps me remember that framework. So I know I'm going quickly, but we have a lot to cover today. I want to shift gears here and talk a little bit about how on earth do we get up to speed with all this content. We talked about how it's a turnkey system, how does a facilitator get there? And what we can say is at this point, we have certified over 500 facilitators. And the good news is that the feedback we've gotten on the certification process has been really positive. So as I mentioned earlier, and I just want to keep reiterating, the subject matter expertise is delivered by the video. So the facilitators don't have to become subject matter experts. They really need to become experts around facilitating the content, bringing it to life, and getting the experience out of the room. And this, because it's in the video, this can really have a huge impact on the time it takes for you to get your team of facilitators up to speed. So what we've done is we've created a blended learning curriculum that begins with a self-paced e-learning module like you see on the screen here. And it's really anchored by a 2-hour virtual demo presentation. And typically we have facilitators up and running in about 60 days or so. We like this process because we think it's efficient and streamlined. There's really no need to travel somewhere, spend 3 to 4 days getting certified, especially in today's environment. And that's something that we find is typical for most programs that are of this caliber. So really just in brief, we'll take a look at what this looks like. So it starts with the e-learning module that you see on the screen here. It then rolls over and participants begin their live demo. And I'm sorry, they begin preparation for their live demo. And then they actually take the live demo. So this is something that happens in a virtual platform like you're in today. What we ask participants to do is to introduce themselves and actually introduce themselves using a framework that we teach in Trustworthy Selling, introduce the program, and then facilitate a portion of the content. And this serves really two purposes. Facilitators demonstrate that they can successfully deliver the content, but it also helps get them a jump start on their preparation for their actual first delivery. From there, they get into kind of final preparation mode. We give them really structured information about how they should do that. And then finally, that last step here is they're going to actually launch their class in our self-service system. So that's the facilitator's point of view. I'm going to pivot now over to the coaching certification, and this involves 2 steps. And like the facilitator certification, it starts with self-paced e-learning modules. These modules provide an overview of the program and the information about how to best coach the different selling styles that may be in their particular group. This is an added bonus. Joey talked about that personality styles profile that's part of the program. It's that foundational piece of the house. And we give insights on how to best coach that particular style. It's kind of a nice little added package there. And then the second requirement is that coaches complete the program themselves one time, just so that they're really familiar with the flow and where coaching makes the most sense. Now, we know coaching is a really critical component. So when it comes to the materials of the coaching piece, and you'll see this as you kind of come with us on this journey of preview day, you'll get to experience some of this coaching guide material. We've made it fully aligned with the content. And the great news is participants, coaches, and facilitators all receive the coaching materials so that this critical accountability component stays in focus for everyone throughout the entire curriculum. In addition, as I mentioned, through the program website, coaches can assign content prior to the coaching sessions, and that really ensures that there's productive conversations happening and everyone is prepared. So just at a high level, there's 5 one-on-one coaching sessions that are built into the program, whether that be the Quick Start edition or the Professional edition. But we also have additional resources for group coaching, so that's especially helpful in this environment we're in. And there are 30, 60, and 90-day follow-ups after the program is concluded that are included as well. So the great news is we're going to go into the analysis in a moment. Our analysis shows that really markedly higher results for companies that support a high coaching environment. So how do we actually deliver all of this great content? What does it look like? Well, as Joey mentioned when he's talking about the kind of the order of the preview day calendar, we will be spending some time on this, and we'll be talking about this in more detail in a later breakout session. But just to give you a high-level context here, this is an example of how a quick start onboarding cycle might look like. So it starts off with kind of a 1 or 2 week full immersion of the Trustworthy Selling core content for those people that are just starting out in the industry. It can be spread over these 2 weeks because it might depend on how much of your company's proprietary information that you want to work into it as well. This very immersive experience kind of rolls over then to structured performance coaching sessions. And this is where these field activities that we've been recommending throughout the program, they get to actually try them out and kind of bounce ideas off the coach and talk about what's working, what's not working, and so forth, and really refine the skills. And then finally, the last piece actually happens 14 weeks later, again, so that they can get a chance to try out all those new skills. And this is where the new recruit would be attending a capstone session that will feature things like role plays, interactive case studies, and it's really where they're expected to demonstrate mastery of the knowledge and the skills that they've learned throughout the program. So again, just a quick snapshot of that, and we'll talk a little bit about what a professional version might look like now. What you're seeing on the screen here, if we can just animate that all the way through, is really the most common delivery module for method for the Pro Edition, where you see 4 one-day sessions separated by time. So we put generally 2 to 3 weeks between the sessions. We think that's ideal because just like with the Quick Start modules, you get a chance to learn, demonstrate, and apply in there by spacing them out a little bit. Especially with these folks that are fine-tuning language and techniques, they get a chance to give it a whirl. So this model that you see on the screen here, it probably takes about 2 to 4 months to get it done. But what I want to stress is that we take a really consultative approach with your organization, and we make sure we have a calendar that makes the most sense for you. So this is just a common option, but there's loads of flexibility here. I see that there's been some great comments in the chat box. Thank you, Joey, for jumping in on all of those questions. Now, I would be remiss in this, again, in this environment to not talk about Virtual Classroom Edition and the delivery we have there. So what you should know is that every edition of the program has been designed for virtual classroom delivery because we recognize how critically important that is in this environment right now. Now, the good news is virtual delivery has been available from day one with this program. So I can tell you we have a lot of experience here. And I can also tell you that we wholeheartedly believe in the feedback loop process. So we've actually refined these now that, in light of recent events, so many more people are doing virtual classroom delivery. So we've gotten some really great feedback. We've been fine-tuning things, and we really want to make sure that our clients can make the most of these materials. So rest assured, we are fully versed in virtual classroom delivery and can get you up and running with this program using that method. Now, I know that was a very quick overview. I have definitely been accused of being a motor mouth in the past, but I want to get us over to the executive panel, and there's a bit more we do want to cover. So that was just a quick overview of those two certification processes and delivery models. They're just brief highlights to get you started, especially if some of this stuff comes up in the executive panel. And I want to really highly recommend that you attend our session on August 11th that's devoted to these aspects of the program. And there we can answer some of your deeper dive questions about all those things that are related to that. And with that, I know I was talking for a bit. We just want to make sure you are tracking with us. So we have a couple test your knowledge questions. See if you're on the same page with us. So go ahead. There's a couple of polling questions. And what we can do in a moment, it will broadcast the results. We'll give away the answers if we broadcast it too early.
Hey, Sarah, as people are completing this, I just want to bring up a couple of things. Those of you that are going to join us for our executive panel coming up at noon, we will be talking about how they've implemented the facilitator and coaching certification, the various delivery models. So definitely you'll want to join us in the breakout session next week where we go to deep dive of that. But even today's executive panel, from a practical standpoint, will be addressing that as well. I think you're muted, Sarah.
Sorry, Sarah,
I am.
There you
I'm
go.
gesturing, and I was actually going to say, Jackie, do you want to jump in and give the correct responses for our quizzes here?
Certainly, certainly. So how is the subject matter expertise delivered to your participants in the program? So that is going to be through the videos, so 71%. Good job. Let's see. These show the language and techniques in action. So those are the language demonstration videos, 93%. Very, very good. And then the last one is how many core coaching sessions are there to support TS 2.0? And the answer is 5. Everybody's been paying really good attention, Sarah, so let's move on.
All right, that's impressive because I know I've been talking fast. Okay, good. So the last thing, and I know Joey had mentioned this earlier, is I'd like to say a little comment about the language piece of it. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm hitting the controls, and I promised I wouldn't. So all of the materials included in the Trustworthy Selling program, everything from the core learning content to the supplemental resources I was talking about to the certification processes are all available in English, French, and Chinese at this point. So that's very exciting. I know we get questions about what that looks like. So for instance, the animated videos have French voiceover and French dubbing, for instance, for the live actor or the subject matter expertise videos. So we can answer more in detail questions about that as we move into Preview Day, or you can certainly contact us behind the scenes. But I do want to go into a really important piece, and this is the part that we get kind of super excited about because we recognize that not all training organizations can provide this kind of detail, and that's the measuring impact. So we talked about the birth of this program, and we really believed way back in the day that, 10 years ago, that we could have a program that could really make a difference in the industry and that could drive real sustainable growth in our companies. And we believe that combination, that magic combo of the art and science that you heard about, would be the equation for success. And today we know it is the equation for success, and here is how we can prove it. So since 2011, we've measured the before and after impact of trustworthy selling, and we've done that in more than 24 companies in every distribution channel you can think of, in the U.S. and Canada, in life, multi-line, in the investment space, and across all the seasons. And now we're witness to double-digit lift in every metric our companies have asked us to measure. So these are the numbers you've probably seen in our marketing materials, and what they most often represent is pre- and post data at 3 months from users of our program. And we say that because that's our most common study, but we've tracked year-over-year results from a company's entire annual recruiting class, and we still see these really great results. So I want to tell you a little bit about how we do measure the impact of this program. So first, we do level 1 evaluation. I'm sure any of us who have attended any kind of event are familiar with these. These are what we call the smile sheets. And these really take a look at the evaluation of how people like the training on an emotional level, and they see it as a valuable use of their time. So what we know from our program is that most participants have an average length of service about 8.5 years, and those are very busy people. We know what those people's lives look like in this industry. And we're super proud to say that 93% say it's a really valuable use of their time. So this kind of evaluation really measures, do they like it? There's some examples here. We have loads and loads of testimonials. I won't read through these because I know everyone hates when people read slides, but here's some great examples of that level of evaluation, and this answers for us, what do they like best? Now, the next level of evaluation, we take it kind of step by step. The next level of evaluation happens 30 days later, and this is the time where we measure sustainable behavior change. There's about 50 or so skills that we track in Trustworthy Selling, and about 36 of them are actively in use by participants 30 days post-program. It's one of the points of analysis that we do. Now, what's interesting is actually all of the skills are activated in varying degrees depending on who we're measuring, because the top 5 skills cited are different depending on the individual's length of service, which really tells us that there's something in the program for everyone, and that certain things resonate even stronger with certain levels of service. So this answers for us the question of, do they use it? Now, our next level of evaluation, and probably the most important, is what we call the BERT process, which is business impact analysis. And this is something we began in 2012 with a case study. It's actually been published in an APD case study book about how to do this kind of thing. So we're super excited about that. And what we do is we do pre-program productivity versus post-program. We take a look at the same agency and we compare attendees versus non-attendees. Some of the things we look at here, for instance, is premium policy count and new clients. And really what we can say, you can see the results on the screen here. I won't go too deep into any of this next few slides, but what we can show through this kind of BERT study and analysis is that we can track the measures that are most important to an individual company, and we can prove impact and impact on productivity. So with that, we're going to kind of quickly move through. This next one here is another version that we've done with a quick start edition of the program, really designed, again, for those new recruits. And you can see the difference between an entire annual recruiting class for those that took the program and who didn't. So the outcome here is they improved every metric, including growth in an investment gross revenue, which was not even expected because that was not one of the primary focuses of this study here. The next one here is multi-line. You can see we're getting similar results here. This is comparing a group of new recruits from 2015 versus new recruits in 2014 at the 1-year mark, and you can see increases across the board. What's not reflected in this chart is there was also an increase in first-year retention by 7% among the new agents. So we just get so psyched about this kind of data. Now, we're not the only one that gets psyched about this kind of data because our results are so good that the American College has actually recognized Trustworthy Selling as a qualified program for one elective toward the SSCP designation. So we know that's about a $500 value if you're buying a course through there. And we know from producers that it's a 93% valuable use of our time, as I mentioned there. So what we like to say here, forgive us for corny for a second, but for companies, it's a 100% valuable use of money. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Joey, and that was the whirlwind view of the learning system. Joey, go ahead.
Hey, Sarah, thank you very much. Hey, and again, everyone, we went relatively quickly in the overview of the facilitator and coaching certification. Next week on the 11th, we have a deep dive specifically on that as well as delivery models. You'll get a little bit of that on the executive panel this afternoon or here in a moment. Also on the business impact results tracking, we will go deep dive and even do some case studies to share that process with you in depth. I know there's a few questions on the chat bar. So all of that's in the breakout session next week on the 11th, so you'll want to be sure to attend that. And I would remind you to complete your pre-work for this Thursday session, in particular the PSP, as well as the Precise Sales Profile, as well as downloading your participant guide. So that concludes our overview. I know we're about 5 minutes still, and we were going to give you a 10 or 15-minute break. Here's what I'm going to make an executive call. We're going to start at 5 after, 12:05 Central, so in 10 minutes. Come back. We'll have our executive panel on here. You'll get to hear from your peers about executing and implementation and facilitator certification. We hope this kickoff session is invaluable for you. Thank you for attending. We'll take a break. We'll be back in about 9 or 10 minutes. Thanks so much.